Buddy, hang on. I'll just turn my camera.
No worries.
Where's my camera? There we go. Start video. Beautiful.
Thank you very much for taking your time out, mate, to do this with me.
You're a Broncos fan, huh?
I am, mate. I am.
Been a lean couple of years, eh? What do you reckon? You reckon they're a chance next year?
No, I still think they're a couple of years away from making the finals. But they're heading in the right direction with the right signings. My personal, with Adam Reynolds and Gabriel going there. Adds a bit of leadership to the group.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see how they go. It's be interesting to see. I think it'll be a good season next year.
Yeah,
a few clubs that have bought well.
Yeah, them and the Bulldogs, they're on the way up, but I think they're still a few years away from finals contention.
Yeah, no worries.
Just get into what I've doing with this page, mate. I'm trying to promote the rugby league here in Perth.
Yeah.
Especially with the possibility of the 18th team expansion coming up. Want to showcase that WA loves their rugby league, which we do. I go to local games, juniors and seniors, take photos, videos, all that sort of stuff, do a couple of reports, and try to promote the NRL teams as well. To all the fans out there.
Nice one.
Yeah.
Well, I do have an affinity with the West. My sister lives over there in Karratha. She moved there when my dad was the original football manager of the Western Reds, the team that was over there, and she met her husband and stayed there, and she's been there ever since. So she's been there a long time. So I do get over there a bit. I'd love to see Western Australia with another team, with a team in the NRL. I think it certainly it sort of warrants it. That's for sure. Yeah,
definitely. No, that's awesome to hear. Especially being up in Karratha. I was working up in Karratha for a while, mate, and it's a pretty desolate sort of place. But yeah.
Yeah, well, she lives out at Point Sampson, and her husband works for Rio, and so mate, we go up and stay up there and go fishing, and mate, it's beautiful. It's just disconnection from the world. It's great.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be cool. I didn't know that Steve was part of the Western Reds when they first came over. Yeah.
Cool. He was the football manager, So mum and dad lived over there for a few years. It was when I was playing at Cronulla. So when they first started, he was up in Darwin, and he went down and worked down there with Peter Parr and Peter Mulholland and, the crew that they had there. So, mate, he loved it. But then got an opportunity to come over to the Sharks and came over and took over the football manager role at the Sharks, and being his beloved Sharkies, mate, he couldn't knock back the opportunity.
Absolutely, mate. Speaking of which, mate, how did you deal with that sort of pressure coming from your dad being at the Sharks as well when you started there?
Mate, I actually thrived on it. I loved it. Probably my brother didn't so much. He sort of struggled a little bit with it. But for myself, I really enjoyed the fact that I would go to games, even growing up as a kid, and people would know who I was based on who my dad was. But then I'd show them who I was, and that's sort of how I approached it. I didn't shy away from it. It's not easy though. I mean, my son sort of struggled a little bit with it, and I probably didn't acknowledge it enough because I dealt with it. I was so comfortable with it that I didn't understand the pressure that he was feeling, or even my brother was feeling, because I just sort of thrived on it, and it helped me grow because I was determined to prove that I wasn't anyone's son. I was me. As much as I loved and respected my dad, and he was my best mate, and taught me a lot of great stuff. I wanted to go out there and prove that I was an entity in my own right. I wasn't there on the coattails of someone else. I was there because I could play, and took every opportunity to do that. And enjoyed it. Loved every minute of it.
Yeah, cool. That's awesome. A lot of people wouldn't say that they thrive on that sort of pressure, but that's pretty interesting to sort of hear that. Was he one of your idols growing up? Like, was it someone else that growing up that you sort of idolized?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, you get so familiar when it's your dad. And my dad was, obviously I loved watching him play, but my favourite player growing up was Brett Kenny. He was just an amazing talent, and it was through the early '80s. When Parramatta were a powerhouse, and the likes of Sterling and Kenny and Cronin and Ella and they're just Price, just an amazing side. So I was sort of a half-pied Parramatta supporter as much as I was a Cronulla supporter when Dad was playing for Cronulla. So it was yeah, it was hard for Dad to take, really. But you know, I had the fortunate pleasure of meeting my idols when I was a kid. You know, like they were Dad's mates, and I remember meeting Brett Kenny at the SCG. You know, when I was about sort of, or I was 81, so I would have been 5 years old, and just telling him I wanted to be a footballer. You know, and I still remember it to this day. And I know Brett now, and you know, we've caught up many times since. And you know, the first time I told him this story, he said, "I remember that. I remember that exact time. It was in the race as you walk into the members at the SCG, and Dad introduced me to him, and I was all starry-eyed, and he asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, and so I want to be a footballer like him. And he told me I could do it, you know, and I just stuck with me, and you know, throughout my whole career, throughout, you know, all the tough times, it's little moments like that I'd sort of go back to. It's like, you know, like you know, all the guys that make it, they're just humans, you know, they're just like me. You know, they put their pants on the same way every morning. They just had a desire and a willingness to keep going when things got tough. And, you know, I took a lot from those little meetings of, you know, well, the things Dad told me, the things that Dad's mates told me, you know, growing up. I remember another time, you know, I would have been about 12, and I'd actually played a game. I'd never played on the SCG, and it was when the Sydney Football Stadium opened, and one of Dad's mates who he'd played with at Cronulla said, "Oh, mate, it's a shame you'll never get to play at headquarters," and they used to call it the SCG headquarters. And I was like, "Yeah, but I'm going to get to play somewhere where you never got to play. I'm playing on the SFS, you know." And he goes, "Mate, you'll do that." He goes, "Just stick to it, you know." And you know, I was only 12 at the time, but I had a desire, and I was just really focused on what I wanted. And if anybody was around me, they certainly knew what I was about. You know, certainly my teachers did. They didn't like the fact that I wasn't all that academic and I focused on footy so much. I don't think I'd ever been told so much over the years that, you know, you can't make money playing football, you know, by teachers. And yeah, we proved them wrong. So yeah, it was just about drawing on those little moments from people that inspired me as a kid. My dad, he probably didn't inspire me so much as he was just Dad, you know, like, you know, Dad was, you know, he was a hero to so many kids, but to me, he was Dad, you know, like I didn't look at him the way that other kids looked at him. Grateful for the time. And, you know, I learned so much from him, not from him telling me anything, but just by watching him, just the work that he would put in. You know, back in those days, players worked full-time jobs. They trained a few nights a week with their club, but you know, to play at that level, they had to do their own stuff. And Dad was always training. He'd come home from work, the boxing bag would be set up, he'd have a mate over and they'd do like, you know, 10 rounds, or they were always doing extra work. And he was always looking at ways to improve his diet. You know, and I remember him sitting in the kitchen of our house so many times with different dietitians and stuff. And I just learned what it took to be a professional at a young age. And you know, it doesn't mean you can't have fun, but you know, there's certainly aspects that you need to focus on, and I learned that from him just indirectly.
Yeah, wicked. Oh, that's awesome. You know, and you're absolutely right with, you know, back in the 80s and they had a job to do during the day, and to make it like him being so professional about it would have been hard for a lot of the guys to do back then.
Yeah, well, mate, you know, when you try to fit in work, a family, a professional career outside of your, you know, what you do for a living, you know, it doesn't leave much time.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. So just going on to your playing career, mate, you played 200 NRL games, played 3 Queensland Super League games, 5 Queensland NRL, ARL, whatever you want to call it. And you play 11 tests for Australia. Then you jump over to Union, you play 40 games for the Waratahs, and you get 45 caps for the Wallabies, mate. Do you look back in your career and is there anything that sort of stands out to you that you sort of go, wow, I achieved this, or I didn't get to achieve that, or anything like that?
No, well, not winning the premiership hurts. You know, played in a few grand finals, but you know, probably the thing that hurts me the most out of all of it is that 2003 Rugby World Cup final. The Super League grand final in '97. It was, you know, we were playing a Brisbane Broncos team that was just stacked to the eyeballs, and it was a bit of a setup. Not a setup, but I mean, the final was in Brisbane on their home track, and you know, they were the red hot side. They were the red hot favourites, and we probably weren't ready to win it then. In '99, we were the best team in the comp by a mile. We were the minor premiers, and we beat the Broncos, I think 40-10 or something in the first final, and then went through to the prelim, and we got rolled by St George, and that's when Melbourne beat St George in the final. I knew if we'd beaten St George, we were going to beat Melbourne. Like there was no doubt. We just forgot that we had to beat St George, and the Anthony Mundine and Nathan Blacklock show kicked off in the second half. I got injured in the first half, so to be honest, I don't even think I would have played in the grand final. But I had a pretty bad corked thigh, and I just couldn't walk. And I actually lied a few weeks later. Lied to the physician for the Kangaroo Tour, the 99 Tri Series. We had to go on tour to New Zealand and play in the Tri Series against them in Great Britain. And I'd been corked in my right leg. And when I got to the medical, I told him it was my left leg, and he did all the tests on it. He goes, "Oh yeah, mate, that's good. You're right to go." And then when I got over there, I couldn't play the first game, and the coach was pretty pissed off. But I said, "Mate, I just wanted to come on tour." I said, "We'll get through the first game. I'll be right for the next." So but the 2003 Rugby World Cup, to go into double overtime and get beat. We had the game there to win, and it's on such a big stage. And that one sort of still haunts me. 99 and 2003 are the things that still haunt me the most. But I really feel like I was blessed. I had three really distinct careers within one career. I had, my time at the Sharks, which was amazing. We just kept getting better and better. And then I had my time in rugby, where, we played in the Super 14 final. We played in the Rugby World Cup final. I played with the Waratahs team that, actually started to achieve their potential. We started to play finals football. They'd never played finals rugby prior to that. And then, then to finish off up here at the Titans and finish off my last game with the Titans was a prelim final. And no one really gave us much hope of playing finals football in those first few years. And we did missed our first two, played in our second two, and sort of wrapped things up there. It was a pretty special time. The Gold Coast was buzzing around rugby league, and it's starting to get that vibe back now with the team that they're sort of starting to put together. It's been a pretty lean 10 years, but I just feel like, I was pretty lucky injury-wise. I had a few major injuries, but they sort of came at a time that I didn't have to miss too much football. I sort of was able to be fixed up in the off-season. So, I sort of look back on it pretty fondly. I loved it. When I retired, though, I was well and truly ready to retire. They offered me another year to play, and I was just done. I've had enough. Being a little guy, getting, I was never the one being able to bully anyone. I was always the one getting bullied on a football field. So, it wasn't the easiest of professions in terms of, pain and injury, but it was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, mate. I remember watching you play for Queensland and Cronulla when I was a kid, mate. And, I loved watching you play, and, one of my favourite players you played outside of was E.T., mate, to have the likes of him and David Peachey in your team, not just them two, but, they're a couple of legends along with yourself that didn't get to win that grand final,
Yeah. Well, it kills me, but the reality is, a lot of people don't win grand finals. It's, I didn't win there's only 17 blokes that win one a year, and it's a minority. You go through, the amount of people that play in the NRL and the amount of people that win grand finals. There's a lot more people that don't win them than do, and I was just disappointed that I didn't get to win one, but at the same time, grateful for the career and the friends that I made. And you're right. Like, E.T. was a hero of mine growing up. So to end up being his teammate and good friend, and to create a combination that we did on that right edge, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I bet. Was there sort of a dark time in your career that you went through, and do you have any advice for people going through a similar sort of dark time in their life?
Oh, there was. It was probably after Dad died. I didn't want to come back and play, and I was. Other than that, I was always football was my sanctuary. It was never a place as bad as my life was going outside of football. Football was to me the happy place. I go on a football field and feel the pressure, and want to perform for your mates, and want to be there for your mates. I love that. But after Dad died, I sort of looked at my life, and I'm like, man, my old man was my best mate. He's sort of my hero, and I'm following him, and then this has happened, am I going down the right path? You know, I don't want to get to the end of my career and feel empty, you know, and being in the position that Dad was in. You know, you look at, you know, medical, like the science around, you know, head concussions and all that sort of stuff now. I mean, Dad played in an era that was pretty brutal. And we've seen, like in the sports like the NFL, with that CTE and players committing suicide and getting severe depression and stuff after they finish playing, you know, coming years on. I've got no doubt if they'd tested my dad's brain, it would have been full of CTE. But, you know, we didn't know that then. And, you know, I was sort of a bit confused and lost. And I guess if anybody's going through that stuff, like, you know, I think for my dad, you know, he had to he was forced into retirement. He didn't get to retire on his terms. Like I left rugby league like very content. You know, I didn't even watch a game for 2 years after I retired. I just needed to get away. And you know, for me, you know, the you know, looking at a guy like Dad who had so much, he was like, he was the king of the mountain, you know, and then it was just ripped away from him. I mean, I can't imagine how that would feel. And yeah, not being that person. And it hurt him, I've got no doubt. And, you know, for me, I think, you know, if you're going through that stuff, like the good stuff's still good, you know, like, and that's what my doctor said to me. Like, you know, I remember, you know, when I was thinking about not coming back, she's like, you know, you're taking away the biggest joy of your life. You know, the good stuff's still good. We've just got to manage the other stuff, you know, and for me, you know, if you're going through a bad time, don't throw everything out. You know, there's probably stuff you can throw out, but don't throw the good stuff out. You know, and I was almost going to do that. You know, I was almost going to throw the good stuff out, and yeah, I'm glad I didn't, because you know, the next sort of 5 years of my career were probably some of the most joy-filled 5 years of my life. And like I said, I walked away from the game so content. They offered me a great contract to continue on. I was just like, I'm good, I'm out, and went and travelled around the world for a couple of years with my wife and kids, and had a great time. And then now I'm heavily back involved in the game from a different standpoint and loving it again. You know? So it's great to you know, tough times are always going to come. It doesn't matter what field you're in, but it's just a matter of, you know, deciphering what's causing that, and you know, coming up with a bit of a game plan. But you know, look, if you are struggling, you know, I can strongly recommend going and getting professional help. You know, and in my time, I've sought professional help many times over, and it's been enormous.
Yep, beautiful advice, mate. Absolutely beautiful. So 2001, you make your Wallabies debut with Wendell. How was that, mate? How was that coming out with Wendell? You know, you both played for Queensland.
Yeah. I remember in 2000, we both played in the Rugby League World Cup final, and we were celebrating. And I asked him, I said, "What are you doing next year?" He goes, "I'm going to rugby." I said, "Are you kidding me?" You know, and I said, "Well, you've never played rugby." And like, I'd played rugby. I played Australian schoolboys into '93. Like, I was a rugby player before I was a league player. Yeah. And had rugby been professional, I probably would never have played league. But it wasn't professional when I left school, so I just didn't want to go and work. I wanted to play football for a living. So, yeah, look, at the end of the day, I was blown away. I was just like, wow, you're going to rugby. And no one had spoken to me about going to rugby, but he'd signed, and then all of a sudden there was all this sort of talk. And I remember being in a convenience store, and this guy coming up to me saying, "Oh, mate, I've heard you signed with rugby. That's crap, blah, blah, blah." I said, "Mate, I haven't even spoken to anyone about rugby. I don't know who you're talking to." Anyway, mate, literally a week later, I got a phone call from the ARU saying, "Do you want to come and have a chat?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I'll come and have a chat," not really thinking anything of it. But once I had that conversation, it really lit a fire in me, because, you know, as a 14-year-old kid, I remember watching the, you know, 1991 World Cup and just thinking, man, I'd love to play in a World Cup, you know, like that'd be amazing, you know. And then I just was so focused on being a rugby player, and then it didn't turn professional. And I went, but then now it was professional. So I had this meeting, and they were, you know, put their cards on the table, and they got a lot of cards, you know, world travel, you know, international games, and international game. And man, it just lit a fire in me that I thought, man, I want to go and do that. And all my mates were playing, like Elton Flatley, Ben Tune, Joe Ross. They're all my teammates from school. So I'm like, well, they're doing it, I'm going to go do it, you know. And so I signed and went across, and, you know, to actually make our debuts together, Wendell and I, was pretty special. You know, I mean, it was against France down in Melbourne, I think. And we had a win, and yeah, I mean, the ball started rolling. I just had, to fight my way into the starting lineup, and there were some good players in that team. They'd won everything for the last 6 years previous, so we weren't going into a team that was struggling.
Yeah,
so we had to work hard, and we earned our spots, and I think we did pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember talking to Wendell about his switch over to Union. He was saying that he wanted the challenge of taking on Jonah Lomu. And I remember him saying that, and that sort of stuck with me. It's like he wanted that challenge. And when I was reading up on yourself, seeing that you played schoolboy rugby and all that sort of stuff, I was like, well, it wouldn't have been that much of a transition for you. You already knew how the style to play and all that sort of stuff. But going back to that, it would have been a little bit of a transition. But yeah, you would have picked it up really quick.
Yeah, I feel like I did pick it up quick, and I certainly didn't need the challenge of facing Jonah Lomu. I'd done that in 1993 as a 17-year-old when he was 108 kilos and I was 65, and I was playing fly half for Australia and he was playing number 8. He picked the ball up and ran over me about 8 times during the game. So I was happy to steer well clear, but I did end up coming up against him again when he was playing for the Hurricanes, and he did send me. He ran in. Like I tried to tackle him front on, and he was coming around. He was on the wing, and I was fullback, and I was coming around to sort of like come and head him off. And as I got in front of him, he hit me, and I reckon I bounced 15 metres backwards. So, yeah, it was certainly something that, I mean, what a tremendous athlete, and such a tragedy, but icon of the game. Like he truly put rugby on the world map in terms of his dominance, and he was a great fella too.
Yeah, definitely. No, absolutely. Was there any other sort of motivation to go to Union, or was it just, all the talk coming around?
Well, it certainly wasn't money, because I got offered more money to stay in rugby league. It was about the opportunity to play on that world stage. One thing about rugby league, it's so tribal, and I love that. And I lived in Cronulla, and my dad was Steve Rogers, and I was sort of one of the stars of the Cronulla Sharks. And if anyone's ever been to Cronulla's a very small place. The Shire is big, that represents Cronulla, but Cronulla itself is really small. I lived in Cronulla. I mean, you could barely go to Cronulla Mall for a coffee without being accosted by people every time you went there. You couldn't escape. If you're a Cronulla Shark living in Cronulla, they're so passionate, the fans. And I sort of wanted to sort of get away from that a little bit. I just sort of wanted to move away from it. My mum was terminally ill with cancer at the time, and my dad and I had this real frosty relationship. He was my boss, and I just wanted to sort of get away from all that and rekindle that relationship with my dad as not a boss. It's just my dad, and the opportunity of rugby, the stage of rugby, and seeing how well the Wallabies have done, and winning, wanting to win a Bledisloe Cup, wanting to win a World Cup, those things that I watched as a kid that I dreamt of doing. I had the opportunity put in front of me, and I was at a position in my career where I was going to get paid really well regardless of where I was going to go. So I actually agreed to go to rugby before they even offered me any money.
Right.
And just said, yeah, let's just do a deal. My friend who was sort of in the meeting with me goes, "Do you want to talk about money?" I said, "No, I know they'll pay me. Like, they're going to pay me. Like, otherwise I won't go." Like it's and yeah. So we sort of shook hands, said, "Yep, draw up a contract and put your best offer forward, and we'll move ahead." So that was it.
Yeah, nice. I want to take you back a little bit further, mate. Back when the Super League war was on.
Yep.
What do you remember about that sort of time in the rugby league then?
I remember just shaking my head, just thinking, this is madness. Just secret meetings and money getting thrown around, and it was just crazy. I was sitting in one meeting, and they're like, "Oh, we're going to," when the injunction got put on the Super League in '96, so they couldn't run. And then, there's all these secret meetings. We're getting taken in limousines to these meetings. People saying, "Oh, we're going to run our own comp, and we'll get," because we couldn't use any officials, or News Limited couldn't run it. So I was up to the players to run it. I'm just sitting there thinking, this is like, I know half the people in this room. There's no way these people are running a competition. We're footballers, and maybe they could have, but yeah, it was crazy. Look, I think, to be honest, at the end of the day, it was something that needed to happen in terms of the money flowing to the right places in the game. The players weren't getting remunerated nearly enough of what the game was making. And when I say the game, Channel 9 at the time, Kerry Packer did an amazing deal and got the rights to the game for a steal. So he was making plenty of money. The NRL or the ARL or whatever it was back then wasn't making as much as it should have been, and the players certainly weren't making as much as they should have been. What the Super League War did was showed the players how much money was in the game through advertising dollars, through TV rights, through all that sort of stuff. And, look, the players are the ones that put the show on, and they're the ones that risk their bodies and their health. And at the end of the day, I think, it all turned out for the better for the game because, like I said, players getting paid what they should have been getting paid. And, we haven't seen too many clubs go broke recently either, which is great.
Yeah, no, definitely. I thought that it turned the game from, the guys having semi-professional sort of jobs to, it being a professional sport, getting paid the right amount of money, and it's a full-time job now. They don't need to have jobs at the moment. The guys go study or do whatever they want. Their spare time, but they've got the full-time job is their training.
Yeah, and mate, to play at the level that the guys do, you need to train full-time. It's hard. They need to prepare themselves to be able to handle the collisions and, the rigours of a week in, week out, 26-week competition. You got to be ready.
Yeah, definitely. What was the reason when you came back to the NRL, mate? What was the reason for going to the Gold Coast and not looking back at the Sharks?
Well, it was sort of after Dad had died, and I was living in Cronulla at the time, and I was playing for the Waratahs, and I still had another year to go on my contract. And I was actually thinking of just retiring. Like I just thought, I think I'll finish this year out and I'll just retire. I spoke to a friend of mine, and he was a part owner of the Titans, and he just said, "Mate, go and have a meeting with Michael Searle." And I said, "I'm not interested, mate. I think I'm going to hang him up." And he goes, "Mate, just go and have a meeting with him, and just see what comes of it." He goes, "There's no pressure." He said, "Why would you not have that meeting?" I'm like, "All right, I'll go and have a meeting." So I went and had a meeting, and Searle just painted an amazing picture of the Gold Coast and his vision. And I grew up on the Gold Coast. I moved here when I was really young, and my mum's one of 13 kids from the Gold Coast, so I've got a lot of family up here. And, I played for Queensland my whole life, based on living on the Gold Coast. I was 12 years old when I played for my first Queensland team and did it again at 15 and 17. And it was all living on the Gold Coast, and I loved growing up here. And I went and had that meeting, and it just sort of dawned on me. It's like, man, like I had the greatest childhood growing up on the Gold Coast, surfing before school, having a tinny, going fishing, like going over to South Straddy, and it was just the best. And it's hard to have that life in Sydney. And, I went and had that meeting. It's funny because my wife said, "Don't sign anything." I'm like, "No, I won't sign anything. I don't want to play." After about an hour's meeting, I signed a contract or a letter of intent to come up to the Titans and play. So she wasn't overly impressed, but it's grown on it. She doesn't want to go back to Sydney now. She did for the first year, but we've been here for 14 years now, and nearly 15 years in December. And best move we've made, mate. So it's an amazing place to live, and it's getting better and better.
Yeah, cool. That's awesome. And the Gold Coast Titans are on the way up. Like we'll say before. So they've got some good signings and stuff coming through. Good juniors.
Yep.
They're on the way up.
Yeah, huge junior nursery to choose from, and with the Titans being as powerful as they have been over the last sort of, when I say powerful, like probably the best Queensland side. And the Broncos struggling. Every kid in Queensland wanted to play for the Broncos before, a couple of years ago. And then it was like, oh, who else can we play for after that? Well, now everyone's looking at the Titans. You got, Fafita and Fasila Moaoi, who's, two young forwards that'll probably be there for the next, 5 or so years or longer, hopefully. Good young pack around them. You've got, some outside backs who are, really starting to hit their straps. And, they've got, some really, really good young players in their development too. Young halfback named Tom Weaver from Palm Beach, Currumbin, who's, he's a great talent. But, they've just brought Toby Sexton out of Q Cup, who's 19, and replaced Jamal Fogarty with him.
Yep.
Who's gone down to Canberra, which I thought was a little bit too soon, to be honest. I thought Jamal could have used another year or two there, and Toby could have learnt from him. But we'll wait and see if I'm right or wrong. But, look, it's a tough gig, playing 26 rounds at halfback in the NRL, and as a 19, 20-year-old, there's going to be a lot on his shoulders. So I hope he's ready for it.
Yeah, I think that's probably the only thing that the Titans are probably lacking at the moment is a experienced half. We'll let Jamal go and.
Yeah, you're right. It's a bit of a worry, but sometimes the right kids, they get thrown in the deep end and they thrive. And hopefully Toby's that kid.
Yeah. Well, he's had a couple of games already. He's proved to be a decent player. So, and you got the excitement we're seeing at the back with Jaden Campbell. So,
freak.
Yeah.
And I think they'll move AJ into 6, and I mean he's not a super experienced player, but he's played at a high level, and if he can sort of help Toby out, I think that'll make life a lot easier.
Yeah, it was exactly take some of that pressure off him. Makes life definitely a lot easier for him.
Yeah.
Have you got any advice for young kids coming through sports these days, mate? Like, there's a lot of pressure on kids to be playing the highest sort of levels. All that sort of stuff. Pressure from parents. Have you got any advice for the kids?
Yeah, if you're a parent, don't put pressure on your kids. Let them have fun. But for the kids, it depends. If you want to play for fun, that's what you're playing for. You're playing for fun. But if you want to play at a high level, it can't always be fun. You got to work hard. You got to do things that you don't want to do. You got to go and do your fitness work. You got to do your skill work. You got to do your extras, all that sort of stuff. If you want to achieve at a high level, now there's a very big difference between playing with your mates and having a good time and having fun, and really trying to achieve at a high level. Different level of intensity, different level of work needs to go into it. But you got to work that out first. But at the end of the day, don't get too disheartened if you don't make a side or that. Like, what young kids need to understand is it's a very subjective decision of someone whether you get picked or not. It's their opinion, and their opinion may be very different from someone else's opinion, but they just hold that seat right now to pick that side. So if you're determined enough, keep working. Don't let those setbacks knock you back. Use them as fuel to push you forward. There's going to be failures in anything you do if you're trying to succeed. There's no question about it. But it's important to when you get those setbacks to use them as fuel. Yeah, you can be disappointed. If you're not disappointed, it doesn't matter. That means it doesn't mean anything to you, which wouldn't be the case. So, but use it as fuel. I would recommend if you don't make a side or you're struggling in a certain area, go and speak to your coach and ask them what you need to work on, so you can work specifically on that and improve yourself in that area. I remember as a kid myself. Not as a kid. I remember there was all talk I was going to get picked to play for the Australian side in '97 in the Super League side. And after the Tri Nations game, I didn't get picked. They picked Ken Nagus. And I've never been more shattered in my life, that I thought, what, I'm just going to find out what I need to work on. And I did. I found out what I needed to work on off the coach. And I focused on that, worked on it, got better in that area, improved other areas of my game. And, I never missed another Australian side again picked while I was playing rugby league. So it's important to find out those things. People can't read your mind. If you're not asking the question, they don't know what to tell you. So be bold. Go and ask why you didn't make that side. Don't be rude about it. Just be bold and say, look, I know I didn't get picked. Can you tell me why? I want to go and work on it. So next time you see me, I'm going to be a different player. And that'll help. Mate,
that's great advice. Absolutely perfect. What have you been doing since retirement, mate? You mentioned that after a few years after you retired, you went travelling with the missus and the kids.
Yeah.
What else have you been up to?
Well, we founded a charity at the back end of my career. We've got an autistic boy. He's 15, Max, and we started a charity that we run that helps autistic kids, with early intervention treatments and stuff like that. So we fund kids into schools and stuff, and fund programs and fund schools for equipment and stuff like that to help autistic kids develop and have the best chance of living their best life. So we've done that for the last sort of 13 years. Then on top of that, mate, I've got a management company, Rogers Sports Management. We started about a year ago, which has been a lot of fun, get my hands dirty back into rugby league. And when I say hands dirty, it's like really getting down to the nitty gritty of rugby league, sitting down with 15, 16-year-old kids and seeing the fire in their eyes and the dreams of what they want to do and make it in rugby league and rugby union. And I love it, man. I'm absolutely loving it, which is great. And then, mate, and a lot of other like small business interests. I've got an events company and stuff, and we do a few other things. But mate, to be honest, my big focus right now is Rogers Sports Management, and we just signed our first player to an NRL contract, and it just happened to be to the Sharks, which is quite ironic. But he was the Q Cup Player of the Year this year, Jaden Beryl. He's a hooker. And this is a great example for kids out there trying to make it. And, you know, like Jaden, he's 27 next year. Like he's 26 this year, and you know, he'd been, you know, busting his butt and, you know, working hard at trying to get to the NRL. He played junior roos at under 20s in the Broncos system, but they didn't re-sign him, and he's just been playing Q Cup. I sat down with him a year ago, and he said, "I really want to have one more shot at it. I think I'm good enough." Anyway, I looked at his highlights today. I think you are too, but let's change a few things. Let's get a bit more focused on a few different areas. Actually went away and did exactly what I said. Sacrificed a few of the nights out with the boys, and, you know, really just honed in on what he needed to do, and, you know, ended up getting Q Cup Player of the Year, the Petro Civic medal. He got Hooker of the Year in Q Cup, and then, you know, just got an NRL contract with the Cronulla Sharks. So super proud of him, and, you know, that's what it takes though to succeed at that high level. You got to surround yourself with people that believe in you and that'll help you move forward. You know, too many people, they say, "I'm going to do this," and they surround themselves with the same people they've been hanging out with the whole time. It's going to pull them back, you know, hold them back. If your friends aren't helping you get there, you know, I'd question how good of friends they are.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, beautiful, mate. Yeah, with your thing for your charity, mate, if you can send me through the link, I'll share it on my Facebook page and Instagram awesome. And stuff, and yeah, get the word out there.
No worries.
One last thing before we hang up, mate. What do you think the possibility of a 18th team in Perth will be, mate?
Mate, it's got to be big, right? I mean, you look at the history of, you know, the Western Reds; they were going good. You know, they were just they were a sacrificial lamb of the merger when Super League and the ARL came back together. I don't think they ever should have been removed. I think they should have stayed there. I thought the supporter base was strong enough then. It's certainly going to be strong enough now, and I think there's enough talent to field another side. And, you know, if we really truly want to call ourselves the National Rugby League, which we do, you know, we're kidding ourselves if we don't expand outside of Queensland and New South Wales. And I think the ideal spot, you know, first and foremost, would be Perth. You know, I would have liked to have seen the 17th team go to Perth, because I think the 18th team would have been easier to set up quicker being back here in Brisbane, given the infrastructure and, you know, the rugby league nature of the state. So, but it wasn't to happen. And, you know, I know they're not going to want to have an uneven number of teams in the comp for too long. So, yeah, hopefully the Western Reds Mark II will come back.
Yep, beautiful. No, I'm hoping so too, mate. That's all I've got for you today, mate. I really appreciate your time coming on, having an interview with me, mate. So best of luck with everything, and we'll chat to you later.
No worries. Well, mate, big shout out to my Western Australian friends, Luke Tocky. If you're watching this, I know you're a big rugby league fan, Luke. I think he played for the Joondalup Giants. Yep. He was telling me. So, yeah. Well, my brother played for the Joondalup Giants too back in the day. So, good on you, league fans in WA. Keep up the support, and we'll keep pushing for a 18th team over there in WA.
Beautiful, mate. Thank you very much, buddy.
Cheers, mate. See ya.
See you, mate. Bye.
Good on you, mate. See ya.